I transferred to Crescent Hill University during the fall semester of 2019. IT wasn't a big school, but it had a decent reputation, and honestly, I just needed a fresh start. I'd gone through a rough breakup, and everything about my old campus reminded me of it. So, Crescent Hill was my escape, new town, new people, new me. My dorm assignment was in this old building called Brookside Hall. The second I stepped in, I could smell that weird mix of dust, cleaning spray, and something faintly metallic. The hallway lights buzzed, and the walls had this yellow tint that made everything feel tired. When I unlocked my room, one bed was already made, sheets tucked tight, a gray comforter perfectly smoothed out, and a single pillow. The other side was empty. My roommate's name was Lena. She wasn't there at first, but her things were a small silver lamp, a few textbooks, and a framed photo turned face down. I didn't think much of it. That night around 9, the door opened quietly, and she just walked in. No eye contact. No smile. She whispered a soft hey and sat at her desk. Her hair was long, dark, and almost covered her face. She started writing in a notebook, not typing, not scrolling her phone, just writing. She barely spoke to me for the next few days. She didn't go out, didn't hang with anyone, and when she slept, she always faced the wall. I figured she was shy, maybe socially anxious. But there was something about her silence that made the air in that room feel heavy. One night, I came back late from a study group, and the door was locked from the inside. When she finally opened it, she looked startled. "You weren't supposed to be here," she said, and then turned off the light. After that, I started noticing things. Her bed never changed, like, ever. Her side of the room was frozen. The same folded blanket, same pillow position. I even left a pencil on her pillow one morning. When I came back later, it was still there. Her clothes never moved either. The same shirt on the hanger, same pair of shoes lined perfectly under the desk. I started to wonder if she stayed somewhere else, but she was always there when I got back, sitting at her desk, facing the wall. One weekend, I went home. When I came back, her side was exactly the same. Not a wrinkle, not a thing out of place. It felt like time didn't move on that side of the room. Then, one night around 3:42 a.m., I woke up to this soft whispering sound. It was coming from her desk. I sat up and listened. It wasn't English, it sounded like humming mixed with words. I whispered, "Lena?" The whispering stopped instantly. When I looked over, she was lying down, back facing me, completely still. The next morning, I found little burn marks near her bed, small black dots on the carpet, like matches had been lit and dropped. When I asked her about it, she said quietly, "Don't touch my side." I remember the way she said it. Calm, but wrong. Like she didn't mean don't. She meant can't. After that, I went to my RA, told her about Lena, the weird behavior, the burn marks. She frowned and said, "That's strange. Room 213? That's supposed to be a single this semester." I told her no, I had a roommate. She looked it up on her list and showed me the paper. My name was there. Lena's wasn't. When I came back to the room that evening, Lena wasn't there. But her desk lamp was still on, flickering slightly. Her notebook was open on the desk. I leaned closer. My name was written over and over, covering the entire page. That night, I packed my bag and slept in the dorm lounge. When I came back at sunrise with the RA, her desk, her bed, everything was gone. The room looked like it had always been single. The RA turned to me and said, "See? Just you." But I swear, I could still smell her perfume. That faint lavender scent. Especially at night. The next few days, I kept telling myself maybe I'd lost it, that stress was making me see things. But the photo on my phone said otherwise. You could clearly see 2 beds. When I showed it to the RA, she looked uneasy. said maybe it was from before I moved in. But I'd taken it 2 weeks ago. That night, I sat in my dark room alone now and tried to convince myself everything was fine. Then I heard it again. That slow, deliberate scratching sound. It was coming from her side. I turned my flashlight on and froze. Her notebook was back. The same one I'd given the RA earlier that day. On the open page, in shaky letters, it said, "You weren't supposed to be here." My throat closed up. I grabbed my phone and ran out of the room. The next day, campus security met me in the office. I told them everything. When they looked into it, one of them asked me, "Room 213, right?" I nodded. He sighed. "There was a fire there, 3 years ago. Electrical fault. One student didn't make it. Her name was Lena Morales. My blood went cold. I didn't even know what to say. When they took me back to the room, the smell of burnt fabric hit me immediately. The officer lifted the corner of the rug, and underneath, dark scorch marks. The exact same spots I'd seen before. They moved me to a temporary room across the hall. I didn't sleep that night. Around 3 a.m., I heard slow footsteps outside my door, then 3 soft knocks. I whispered, "Who is it?" Silence, then a voice. "You weren't supposed to be here." I waited for what felt like an hour before opening the door. The hall was empty. But at the far end, near my old room, a thin wisp of smoke curled up toward the ceiling. The alarms went off seconds later, but when security checked, there was no fire. Nothing. Just that smell. Through the window of room 213, I saw her. For just a moment. Standing by the bed. Long dark hair, pale face, staring at the door. Then she was gone. I transferred dorms the next day, but sometimes, when I walk past Brookside Hall, I see that same window flicker, just once. Like a pulse. Every fall, a new student gets assigned to room 213. And every fall, I hear the same story. They wake up around 3:42 a.m. to the sound of someone whispering from the corner. And when I smell lavender, I still know she's near. I moved into my dorm at Fairview University in August of 2019. IT was one of those old, echoey buildings where the hallways smell faintly like bleach and dust, the kind of place where every sound bounces off the walls. I didn't know anyone on my floor yet, and honestly, I kind of liked the quiet. My roommate hadn't arrived yet, so for the first week, I had the room to myself. The first note showed up on a Thursday night. IT was around 11:40 p.m. I'd just gotten back from the common room, scrolling through my phone, when I noticed a small folded paper under my door. I figured it was one of those welcome messages from the RA or maybe a pizza flyer, but when I picked it up, my stomach dropped a little. But neat, small handwriting. It said, "You look tired at 2:17 a.m. I kind of laughed it off at first. I even texted my friend Jason down the hall like, "Nice try, man." He just replied with a question mark. The next morning, there was another note. This one said, "You should stop leaving your closet door open when you sleep." I stared at that one for a while. Because I hadn't mentioned that to anyone, and yeah, I always left it open, just a little, because I didn't like how dark it got in there when it was closed. That night, I locked my door for the first time. I even pushed a chair against it. I remember lying in bed, listening to the faint hum of the radiator and the occasional creak from the pipes, trying to convince myself it was just a prank. But then, around 3 a.m., I heard something. It was the soft scrape of paper sliding under my door. I froze. My heart started pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. I didn't move, not even to breathe. When I finally got the courage to look, there it was, another note, just sitting on the carpet. I didn't touch it until morning. When I opened it, it said, "You shouldn't sleep facing the window." I swear, I felt cold all over reading that, because that night, that exact night, I had turned my bed toward the window for the first time since moving in. And no one could have known that unless they were inside the room. After that, I told Jason and a couple of guys from the floor. They thought it was hilarious. They said maybe the RA had a hidden camera or something, or that someone across the courtyard could see in.so. I decided to prove it. I set up my phone on my desk, angled at the door. I left it recording through the night, and I taped over the peephole, just in case. The notes stopped for 2 nights. Then on the 3rd night, they started again. This time, there were 2.1 said, "Why did you cover your peephole?" And the other, "You shouldn't record things you don't understand." I wanted to leave. I should have left. But instead, I convinced myself it was still a prank, someone messing with me just to get a reaction.so. I did the dumbest thing imaginable. I set up the camera again. That night, I barely slept. Every time the building creaked, I stared at the door. I kept thinking I'd hear footsteps, or laughter, or something, but nothing came. When I woke up, there was no note, just the phone, sitting there. I opened the footage.at first. It was boring, just me rolling around, breathing heavily, snoring a bit. Then, around 3:12 a.m., something happened. The door handle, it started to turn. Slowly, I paused the video, rewound it, and turned up the brightness. That's when I saw it. For 3 minutes straight, there was a faint reflection, like a face, pressed against the peephole, but it wasn't outside. It was from inside the room. I can't even describe it right. It wasn't like a full face, more like the shape of one. Pale. Motionless. Just watching. I dropped my phone. I remember actually screaming, like full-on panicking. Jason came running in, and I showed him the footage, but when we checked again, the video was corrupted, completely black. The next day, campus security came by after I filed a report. They checked the hallway camera. They told me no one had entered or left my room between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. They even said my door sensor never registered opening at all. That night, I slept in Jason's room. When we went back the next morning to grab my stuff, there was one last note. It was sitting dead center on my pillow. I in the same small, neat handwriting. It said, "You looked tired at 3:12 a.m. I never stayed another night in that dorm. I moved into Fairview Hall during my sophomore year. The dorm was old, the kind that hums even when nothing's on. The walls were thin. The floorboards creaked when you breathed too loud, and the radiator sounded like it was sighing in its sleep. I was in room 212, right next to an empty one that had a big yellow renovation in progress sign taped across the door. Everyone said that room, 213, had been closed off for years. RA, Jamie, told us it wasn't safe. Something about electrical damage and weak flooring.so. Yeah, it was supposed to be completely empty, but that first week, it didn't sound empty. It started one night around 1:30 a.m. I was half asleep when I heard it, this soft dragging sound, like someone pulling furniture across the floor next door. Then, faint talking, low voices. Muffled. You know that sound when someone's whispering just out of reach? It was like that, words I couldn't make out, but close enough that I knew they were there. I just figured maybe maintenance was using it for storage. Old dorms have weird noises, right? But then the next night came. This time it was laughter. A quick, breathy laugh, like someone trying not to wake anyone. I remember sitting up in bed, turning off my fan, and listening. It wasn't coming from the hallway. It was coming from inside the wall. The next morning, I asked Jamie if workers were in there after hours. She gave me this confused look and said, "No one should have keys to that room. It's sealed from the inside." That made my skin crawl a little. That night, I shoved my dresser against the wall, just for peace of mind. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling someone was on the other side, listening too. 3 nights later, I woke up to whispering through the vent.at. First I thought I was dreaming, then I heard it again, soft, slow, like a breath being formed into words, and then, it said my name, Maya. I can't explain the kind of fear that hits you when you hear your own name whispered in an empty room. I froze. Every part of me wanted to move, but I couldn't even blink. I slept with every light on that night. The next morning, I asked Jamie again. This time, she looked nervous. She said she'd reported to campus maintenance but repeated herself, "That room's sealed. No one's been in there for years." That same night, I heard it again, only this time, it wasn't whispering. It was knocking. After that, the noises became almost nightly whispers. Shuffling, sometimes a dragging sound, like something being moved right along the wall, and then, as suddenly as it began, it stopped. For 3 nights straight, there was nothing. No breathing. No knocks, just dead silence. And somehow, that felt worse, like something had moved on, or moved closer. By the 4th night, I couldn't take it anymore. I pulled a chair over to the wall and climbed up to check the air vent above my bed. The metal cover was old and bent, one corner loose. When I pressed my fingers to it, it felt colder than the rest of the room. I hesitated, then pulled it off. Behind it was just darkness, dust, cobwebs, but as I angled my phone flashlight into the duct, the beam caught something glowing. At the far end, through the connecting vent, was a phone. The screen was on, facing up. A faint blue light, barely visible, and on it was a camera app. I leaned closer. My pulse was racing, and then I saw what it was showing. It wasn't the floor, it wasn't the wall, it was me. A live video of my room. Nybed. Desk. Me, standing there, shining my flashlight into the vent. For a second, I thought maybe I was imagining it, but then the angle shifted, like whoever was holding the phone was moving it, and the camera tilted up, toward the vent, toward me. I dropped my phone. It hit the floor hard, but I didn't care. I stumbled back, my whole body shaking. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. When I finally got the words out, I called Jamie. She was at my door in less than 10 minutes with campus security. When they forced open room 213, the air that came out was wrong. Cold. Stale. Metallic. The room was pitch dark, the windows boarded up. No furniture. No phone, just a vent cover on the floor. And on the wall beneath it, deep scratches, like someone had been clawing their way out. They sealed it again that night, said they'd look into it. But no one ever mentioned it again. It's been months since then, and I still live in room 212. Most nights, it's quiet, but sometimes, around 3 a.m., when the building settles, I hear breathing through the vent. And last week my phone lit up on my desk. A notification from an unknown username. Fairview 213 is watching. I moved into Hawthorne Hall my sophomore year. It was one of those old dorms that always smelled faintly like radiator heat and wet concrete, like the walls themselves were tired, the kind of place where the floors groaned at night, and you could hear pipes clicking behind your bed. Still, it felt kinda cozy. At least at first. My room was 318, right at the end of the 3rd floor hallway. When I checked in, the girl at the front desk gave me my electronic key card, and then, kinda offhand, handed me this bent, silver key. She said, just in case your card stops working. It had the letters HH scratched into it. I remember thinking it was weird, like, what dorm still uses real keys anymore? But I just shrugged and pocketed it. A few nights later, my keycard glitched when I came back from class. The light on the reader turned red, and no matter how many times I tried, the door wouldn't unlock. I remembered that old key and figured, why not? When I slid it in, it turned smoothly. My door unlocked. That was strange enough, but I don't know what made me do it next. Curiosity, maybe. I tried it on my neighbor's door, and it opened. Then the next one. And the next. That key, that random bent key, opened every single door on my floor. I stood there for a full minute, holding it, just staring down the hallway like maybe someone would pop out and tell me it was a prank, but nobody did. The whole dorm was quiet except for the buzz of those old fluorescent lights. The next morning, I went to the front desk to tell them. The same girl was there. I showed her the key, and she looked genuinely confused. She said, "We don't issue physical keys here. Ever." I laughed. I told her she literally handed it to me during check-in, but she shook her head. Said she didn't remember me, and they'd never had keys like that. Something about the way she said it, calm but nervous, made me slip the key back into my pocket. I didn't want to leave it with her, not anymore. That night, I kept hearing sounds in the hallway, like soft movement, not footsteps, just shifting weight. Bare feet maybe, stopping in front of each door, including mine. I didn't sleep much after that. A few nights later, around 2:15 a.m., I came back from a late study session. The hallway lights were half dead, flickering, buzzing, and my door was cracked open, just an inch. At first, I thought maybe I forgot to lock it, but when I pushed it open, my stomach just dropped. My mattress was flipped. My drawers were open. My desk chair was lying on its side. Nothing was missing, but everything was wrong. It didn't look like a robbery. It looked like someone had been looking for something. I stepped out into the hallway, and that's when I saw it. Every single door on that floor was open, just like mine. The next morning, I went straight to campus security. I told them everything, the key, the doors, my room being trashed. They came with me to check it out. One officer asked to see the key. When I handed it to him, he turned it over, looked at it for a long time, then called another guy in. They started whispering, quietly at first, then the first one asked, "Where did you say you got this?" I told him, "From the front desk." He frowned. "This key isn't from Hawthorne Hall," he said. He showed me the engraving. Those letters, HH, didn't stand for Hawthorne Hall. They stood for Hammond House. That's another dorm on campus. One that got shut down 15 years ago. Apparently, a janitor named Thomas Reed used to work there, night shifts, all alone. He went missing one winter and was never found. The only thing missing with him was his master key, the same key that could open every single door. Campus police said they'd keep mine for evidence. They told me not to worry, that it was probably a coincidence, but I couldn't shake it. That night, I locked my door, then I pushed my desk chair against it. Still, around 3:02 a.m., I woke up to the sound of a key sliding into the lock. The handle turned, once, stopped, then turned again, slower this time. I froze. Didn't even breathe. After maybe 30 seconds, it stopped, then nothing. When I woke up the next morning, the first thing I saw on my desk was that same bent key, the one campus police had taken away. It was sitting there like it had never left. And attached to it was a tiny, rusted tag. It had a number scratched into it, room 101. I looked it up later that day. Room 101 was the old janitor's closet in Hammond House, Thomas Reed's. I moved out that weekend, but sometimes, when I'm falling asleep, I swear I can still hear it, that soft metallic sound, the slow twist of a key in a lock that isn't supposed to open anymore. If you made it this far, maybe you felt that same chill they did. Maybe, somewhere deep down, you know stories like these aren't just stories. If tonight's tale kept you looking over your shoulder, then you already belong here, in the dark corner of the internet we call Jenny Noir. Don't forget to like, share, and tell me in the comments which part kept you awake tonight. And if you're new here, subscribe, because I've got darker stories waiting for you right after this one.